Before we dive into this story, make sure to subscribe to the channel. There's a lot more coming your way. And tell me in the comments, where are you listening from? I want to know how far this story has reached. No more waiting. Let's get into the video.
The escape pod screamed through the atmosphere of Elydria Prime, trailing fire like a dying star. Inside, 14-year-old Kael Varen gritted his teeth as the restraint snapped tight across his chest. Outside the viewport, twin suns lit up a savage alien sky. The surface below was jagged and pulsing, alive, and getting closer. A final jolt slammed him into darkness. When he came to, everything was heat and silence. The pod lay half-buried in a canyon of fused red rock. Vapor hissed from cracks in the hull. Kael stumbled out, boots sinking into ash-coated stone. Above, jagged cliffs clawed toward the twin suns. The air shimmered with heat. His mouth tasted metal. He was alone. For days, he survived among Elydria's violent terrain, where the stone groaned at dusk and plants whispered in static. He scavenged from the shattered pod, collecting water droplets from rock hollows at night. He learned to watch for the lava beasts that slithered silently beneath the surface, and to sleep where the cliffs cast shadows sharp enough to hide in. The planet was trying to kill him, and it nearly did. On the 5th day, he found a ravine, a deep, jagged wound in the earth. There, in the only patch of shade he'd seen all day, Kael crawled between stone fangs and collapsed. But as he drifted into exhaustion, voices cut through the canyon wind. Strange, guttural, unnatural. He raised his head just enough to see the figures descending from a sleek black skimmer, 3 of them. Not Elydrian. Their armor gleamed with tech he didn't recognize. Insectoid plating with glowing tendrils, predator helmets with scanning nodes. They moved with the cold confidence of seasoned hunters. They weren't alone. Cornered against a cliff wall, breathing hard, stood a girl. Not human. Not fully. Her skin shimmered gold beneath the twin suns. Her hair was like strands of light, and her eyes glowed violet, brighter than anything Kael had seen since the crash. She looked furious. The lead hunter raised a weapon. Plasma hummed. The girl crouched, ready to fight, but outnumbered, outgunned. Kael didn't think. He moved. He pulled a shard of obsidian from his belt, one he'd shaped into a crude blade, and flung it toward a fissure above the hunters. A sharp clack echoed, then silence. Then, the trap he'd rigged the night before, vines under tension, buried stones, triggered. A cascade of rocks fell like a hammer from the cliffside. One hunter screamed, the others turned. Confusion erupted. Kael sprang from hiding and whistled, a high, shrill note. Another trap, deeper in the ravine, snapped. A burst of powdery pollen filled the air. Visibility dropped to nothing, and in that chaos, the girl struck. She moved like lightning forged into flesh. One hunter fell, then another, shrieking as his armor cracked. The third tried to run. A flash of violet energy from her palm sent him tumbling into the dust. Silence returned, heavy, trembling. Kael stood still, breath shallow. The girl turned, her eyes locked onto his. She approached slowly, her expression unreadable. He tensed. She was taller, older, clearly trained, a warrior. She could kill him before he could blink. Instead, she knelt. "You are human?" she asked in accented English, voice like a low wind. He nodded. "You should have run." "I know." "You didn't." "I know." A pause. Her fingers brushed the blood on his temple. Then, in a gesture he could never explain, she leaned in and pressed her lips gently to his cheek. Warm, electric. Then she whispered, "Return when you are grown. The reward will be worth the wait." Kael stared at her. Stunned, she stood, golden hair catching the wind. A shimmer of light danced around her body, and then she vanished, a blur across the cliff walls, gone as quickly as she came. He was alone again, but something in him had changed. That kiss, brief as it was, had burned itself into his soul like a brand. Not because it was romantic, not because she was beautiful, but because, in a world designed to destroy him, someone had seen him and believed in what he could become. And from that moment on, Kael Varen was no longer just a boy lost in the stars. He was a boy with a promise. The shuttle emerged from warp above Elidria Prime, slicing through the black like a silver blade. From the viewing panel, Kael Varen watched the planet swell into view. Crimson deserts, glacial ridges, and the ever-turning fields of obsidian stone. 10 years had passed. 10 years since the kiss, since the promise, and now he had returned. Kael was no longer the boy hiding in shadows. His frame was broad, forged in gravity drills and field campaigns. Scars crossed his knuckles like metals. The Colonial Forces emblem glinted on his shoulder, and across his back was etched a line in violet ink. Honor is in the promise kept. The shuttle touched down at the Elidrian border enclave, a city of crystal towers and woven energy canopies rising from stone like flowers under starlight. As Kael stepped onto the surface, the twin suns rose together, burning symbols in the sky, as if waiting just for him. He was escorted in silence through narrow crystalline halls, where Elidrian guards flanked the corridors, watching him with unreadable eyes. He sensed no hostility, only calculation, curiosity. Then, the doors opened. She stood at the far end of the chamber, cloaked in shimmering armor of woven gold and starlight, her hair braided with glowing threads. Erin Solari, no longer the wild girl in the desert, now a commander, a symbol, and still, somehow, impossibly familiar. Her eyes met his, violet, steady. She didn't smile. Not yet. "You came back," she said. "I said I would," Kael replied. She stepped forward slowly, and for a heartbeat, it felt as if time itself recoiled, the chamber holding its breath. "You remember what I said to you?" she asked. Every word. A silence passed. Then, finally, the edge of her mouth curved. "Then we begin." She led him to the Heart Hall, an ancient space carved into the mountain's core, where crystal roots touched molten stone. Floating glyphs surrounded a great well of light in the center, pulsing like a living heart. 10 years ago, you saved an Elidrian," she said, her voice reverent. "According to our oldest laws, such an act grants you the right to invoke the Rito da Convergencia." Kael's jaw tightened. "And what is it?" 3 trials, of mind, of body, of soul. Pass them, and you may claim the union essential, the deepest bond our kind can offer. Few attempt it, fewer survive it. No human ever has. Kael didn't hesitate. "I accept." Erin looked at him, not with affection, but with something far deeper. "Faith. Then you must be purified," she said. He was led into a chamber filled with steam and glowing stone. Robes were placed on him. Human clothes burned away in ritual fire. Elidrian marks were painted on his chest. Temporary. Symbolic. They pulsed softly, reacting to his heartbeat. When he emerged, Erin was waiting. She approached him in silence, placed a single finger against the mark over his heart. "It responds to you," she whispered. Kael looked down. "Why?" She studied his face. "Because perhaps you're more Elidrian than you know." Before he could speak, a gong echoed through the hall. Deep, resonant, old. "The first rite begins now," Erin said. "Prepare to face your own essence." They walked together toward the Hall of Echoes. As they approached the gate, she turned to him one last time. "I need you to understand something," she said, her voice low, close. "These rites will break you open. They were not designed for humans. No comfort will follow. No rescue will come. You will walk alone." Kael nodded. "I already have." The doors opened with a sound like a planet sighing. Inside, darkness. As Kael stepped into the void, the light behind him vanished, and the chamber swallowed him whole. The darkness inside the Hall of Echoes was not absence. It was presence. Thick, breathing. It slithered across Kael's skin like cold oil, seeping into every pore, into every crack in his armor of self. He took one step, then another. The walls pulsed with a dim violet glow, like veins just under the skin of a beast. Then, light. No. Memory. He stood in his childhood bedroom, years before the crash. Rain pattered on the window pane. The door creaked open, and his father stepped in. Pale, eyes bloodshot. The belt dangled from his fist. Kael couldn't move. He knew this scene, knew what would come. He screamed. But no sound emerged. The blow landed. Then another. Again. His skin flinched as if reliving the pain. He gasped for breath, trying to pull away, but the room held him fast. Then it changed. Now the crash. The escape pod spiraling, flames licking the viewport. His mother's voice in his ear. "You'll be strong, baby. You'll be strong for me." Then silence. Her transmission cutting out just before impact. He dropped to his knees. Then the war. Screams of dying soldiers. The little girl he couldn't save. The boy whose hand he let go in the trench collapse. Faces. So many faces. Gone because of him. The chamber was feeding on his guilt, projecting it, amplifying it, distorting it. His heart pounded. His lungs burned. He fell forward, shaking. "Stop," he whispered. "Please, stop." But the chamber didn't stop. It fed. And then, a voice, not from the memory, from here. Real. "You don't belong here." Kael turned. The shape emerged from the shadows, taller, broader, cloaked in obsidian. An Elydrian male, dark markings across his face like war paint, eyes like cold stars. "Koreth," Kael said, voice ragged. "The radical." "I warned them," Koreth said. "Humans are weak, rotten, bound by fear and grief. You are not worthy of her. You are not worthy of the Union." Kael tried to rise but staggered, gasping. The floor shifted beneath him, visions pressing in again. His skin was on fire. "You tampered with the chamber," Kael said through gritted teeth. Koreth smiled. "She was mine to choose, not yours. You were a child playing hero in a war you didn't understand." The chamber flared. The guilt pressed harder. Blood ran from Kael's nose. His vision blurred. He collapsed again. But then, her voice. "Return when you are grown." Kael remembered her words. The look in her eyes. The reward will be worth the wait. He clenched his fists, drove them into the ground. "I'm not here to take her," he growled. "I'm here to earn her." He pushed himself to his feet. Step by step, breath by breath, he forced himself forward, past Koreth's illusions, past the ghosts of his past. The chamber cracked. Light split the darkness. He fell out of the hall and into blinding sunlight. Erin was waiting outside, but she didn't move toward him. Her expression was unreadable. He fell to one knee, panting. "You emerged in record time," one of the elders said, impressed. But Erin didn't speak. She saw the blood, the tremor in his limbs. She knew something had gone wrong. The second trial began just hours later, too soon, but the council insisted. An expedition to retrieve the solemn core, an artifact buried in a toxic biome known as the Veil of Dust. Kael entered alone, armed with nothing but filtered air, scanning goggles, and his stubborn heart. The environment was worse than described. Spores thick as fog, wind that whispered lies. He staggered through it, each step a gamble, each breath a risk. Then, earthquake, collapse, a shock wave from underground, sabotage. Again, the roof of the chamber caved. His mask cracked. Poison filled his lungs. Darkness clawed at the edges of his vision. But then, light. She came for him. Erin burst through the breach, disobeying direct orders. A second mask pressed to his face. Their bodies tangled in a fall. But she held him close, sharing oxygen, eyes locked with his. Her breathing was erratic. Her own mask flickered. Still, she didn't let go. Together, coughing, crawling, they escaped. She collapsed just outside the toxic zone, skin blistered, eyes unfocused. The healers rushed to her. Kael refused to leave her side. "She saved me," he told them. "I won't continue without her." "You must finish the rite," an elder insisted. "I won't," he said. "Not without her." Those words echoed through the council chamber. A warrior refusing glory, refusing tradition, because of her, because of love. The council of elders gathered in a circle of suspended platforms, orbiting a beam of light that stretched from the planet's core to the upper sky. Erin lay within a recovery chrysalis, her body resting beneath layers of glowing film. Monitors tracked her vitals. Healers moved like silent shadows. Kael stood alone before them, arms folded, breath steady, but his heart roared like a war drum in his chest. "He completed 2 of the 3 rites," said Elder Vile, voice rippling through the chamber, "and risked his life, and his bond, to save one of ours. He has proven strength," another added. "But has he proven soul?" A murmur of dissent. Then Koreth's voice pierced the room. "He does not belong in our ritual," the radical declared, his body cloaked in ceremonial black. "You would offer our sacred rite, the union essential, to this outsider? A hybrid of grief and guilt? You corrupt the very essence of a Lydrian spirit." Kael didn't speak. He stared directly at Koreth. Then he turned to the elders. "Let me finish what I started," he said. "Give me the 3rd rite. Let me choose her, as she once chose to save me." A long pause. The light in the center shifted from blue to silver, the sign of decision. Elder Vale lowered his head. So be it. The chamber transformed. The ritual hall of convergence opened before them, a vast sphere of floating crystal, hovering above a sea of starlight. In the center, the Fio de Almas, the thread of souls, pulsed with ancient energy. It had not been touched by a human, ever, until now. Erin, awake but weak, entered slowly, her gown woven with light. When she saw Kael, her expression softened, but she said nothing. They stood before each other, close, but not touching. The elder raised her hand. "The union essential is not a bond of the body," she intoned. "It is the fusion of soul, memory, energy, pain, and purpose. You may not emerge as who you are. You may not emerge at all." "I understand," Kael said. "I do," said Erin, voice firm. The ritual began. The thread of souls descended, coiling around them like living smoke. It entered their skin, gently, then deeply. Their minds were pulled into one another, beyond space, beyond flesh. Kael saw her life, her birth under twin moons, her training among crystal cliffs, the loneliness of command, the fear of being seen as weak for wanting something more than duty. She saw his, the cold nights in ruined Earth cities, the pain of loss, the promise whispered in a canyon, the day he carved her name into steel. Their thoughts became one, their pulses synchronized. And then, Kael's skin began to change. Elydrian markings appeared, glowing violet, etching across his chest, arms and jaw. They shifted with his breathing. Gasps echoed from the observing elders. "No human has ever," one began. "He's adapting," whispered another. But Koreth had not come to witness wonder. He came to end it. The wall exploded. Koreth and his rebels stormed into the chamber, weapons charged with dark plasma. Elders screamed. Guards moved too late. "End the ritual!" Koreth roared. "Now!" A shot fired, meant for Kael. Erin turned, instinctive, but the energy dissolved before reaching them. Kael and Erin had not broken the bond. They had become the bond. They turned together, eyes glowing, bodies illuminated with the same pulse. Kael raised a hand. Erin mirrored him, their fused energy unleashed in a silent wave of light. The rebels froze. Weapons shattered in their hands. Armor cracked and fell to the floor. Koreth stumbled back, eyes wide with terror. What are you?" "Balance," Erin said. "Union," Kael added. The temple responded. The light above turned white, blinding, sacred, ancient. Glyphs activated across the chamber's walls. A voice, not of this era, echoed through every mind. "From the shock of 2 worlds shall rise the bridge to all stars." Erin's hand found Kael's. Their eyes met, no longer bound by species or shape, only by something greater. They had not just passed the ritual, they had rewritten its meaning. The stars outside the viewport pulsed in slow rhythm, like the heartbeat of the universe itself. Kael stood barefoot on the balcony of the Harmony Spire, a structure that floated between Earth's outer colonies and Elydria's atmospheric ring, the first interspecies settlement ever constructed. Below him stretched a breathtaking view. Crystalline towers grown from Elydrian seeds, merged with Earth's steel architecture, bioluminescent gardens swaying in artificial gravity, corridors alive with the voices of many languages, and among them, laughter. Human, Elydrian, shared. 1 year had passed since the Union Essential. 1 year since the rebellion was silenced by light, and everything had changed. Kael Varen was no longer just a soldier. He was now ambassador, guardian, subject of study. Scientists from 23 systems came to observe the living markings on his skin, how they moved with his emotions, how they responded to solar cycles, how they sometimes emitted soft pulses of energy when he dreamed. He could now sense intent, not read minds, but feel motive. In tense meetings, it made him a master negotiator. In conflict zones, a living lie detector. But he used it sparingly, because not everything needed to be understood. Some things just needed to be felt, and above all the attention, all the analysis, he cared most about one thing: Erin. She emerged from the inner chamber behind him, her golden hair loose, wearing the soft robes of the Elydrian dawn ceremony. Her feet made no sound on the stone floor, but he always felt her presence before she arrived. "You're thinking loud again," she said, wrapping her arms around him from behind. He smiled. "Didn't mean to. You do it when you're remembering." He turned to face her, letting his fingers trail gently down the curve of her cheek, over the marks on her collarbone, marks that now mirrored his own. Elydrian script, living language, their names etched in motion. "I was thinking about the ravine," he whispered. Her violet eyes sparkled. "The heat of the rocks, the blood on your face, the noise of the traps, and the kiss." She grinned. "That impulsive human boy, so reckless, so brave," he replied. She leaned in and kissed his lips, softly, like a memory finding its home. Later that day, they stood together before a crowd of diplomats, scientists, and citizens, humans and Elydrianos alike, in the Hall of Accord. The room shimmered with banners of both worlds. A child from Earth offered a crystal to a child from Elydria. A gesture, a beginning. Kael took the podium. He didn't speak from notes. "I was 14 when I first came to this world," he began. "I was alone, hungry, terrified. I thought the universe had ended." He glanced at Erin, who stood at his side. "And then I saw someone who wasn't like me. I saw her being hunted, and I made a choice. Not because I was strong or wise, but because something in me refused to let difference mean division." He paused, letting silence settle like gravity. "Back then, I thought the reward would be love, and it was. But it was more. It was transformation, not just of body, of soul, of story." The room was still. "Today, this colony isn't just a home. It's a bridge, and bridges don't care about where you come from, only that you choose to cross." Applause erupted. Not just from hands, from wings, tendrils, light, unity and sound. That night, beneath twin moons that glowed over the horizon of the artificial sky, Kael and Erin lay together in their chamber, watching stars drift lazily across the transparent ceiling. "Do you ever think about what would have happened if I'd stayed hidden that day?" he asked softly. "No," she said, "because you didn't." He smiled. "You knew." She placed her hand over his heart. "I felt you, before I saw you. Some part of you already belonged here." He kissed the back of her hand, the glowing Elydrian marks dancing against his lips. They lay in silence for a while. Then Kael spoke again. "You know, they call us the couple that sealed peace between galaxies," she chuckled. "A fancy title for two fools who almost died in a sandstorm." He laughed, then turned serious. "What do you think our legacy really is?" She thought for a long moment. "Our legacy," she said at last, "is that we proved love isn't a weakness of the flesh, but the courage of the soul, and courage is universal." Kael closed his eyes. Her head rested on his chest, and far above, a new satellite activated, beaming their story into the void, for distant species to see, for enemies to reconsider, for exiles to hope. The boy who saved the golden-eyed girl, the girl who waited 10 years for the return of the man. The kiss at the end of the world, that wasn't the end at all. It was the first spark of a star.